Behind every achievement gap in school, you can expect to find an opportunity gap in learning outside the classroom. Among the organizations trying to fill that gap is the Thompson Island Outward Bound Education Center, whose programs serve thousands of local students and teachers. And the gap will be addressed in a forum at the center on October 25th. To tell us about the topic and the event are the center's CEO, Arthur Pearson, and a special education humanities teacher at the Lilla G. Frederick Pilot Middle School in Dorchester, Patrick Harris. Thank you, Bill, very much for being with us.
Thank you
for having us.
I want to start with Arthur. For people who are not familiar with the island and the program, tell us a little bit about it.
The island is a remarkable resource in Boston. It's been serving disadvantaged youth since 1833, when it was started as a farm school. In its current incarnation, we are part of the Outward Bound USA network. We're one of 11 independent Outward Bound centers in the US. And we serve about 5,500 students a year, about half of those for free through our relationship with the Boston Public Schools.
Patrick, what's it like when you bring students to the island? Just their impression. I mean, we've all grown up in the mainland here, and all of a sudden you're out in this almost like middle of nowhere.
Well, it's a truly incredible experience, and it starts the minute they get on the boat ride. You have to understand that many of my students have never been on a boat before, so just that experience is often really interesting, exciting, and somewhat nerve-inducing for a lot of my students. And what you see when students get to the island is quickly that excitement transitions into the science lessons that are happening there. And you see students take all this energy and channel it into a really focused, beautiful energy that is something that we as teachers are always trying to work with, especially with sixth graders, trying to get them to take that positive energy and really focus it onto education is something that happens right away when they have the island.
Arthur, going back, you were more or less like one of these students yourself, going into the Outward Bound program. So what was that like for you?
I was 16 years old, wonderfully impressionable age. I was sent to Maine to do an Outward Bound course. That's in the early 70s. It took me, as is the case with Patrick's students, completely outside of my known world at the time, which was a very sheltered known world. It showed me capabilities that I had that I never would have imagined if I hadn't been pushed outside my comfort zone. And I still, in my current professional work, refer back to some of the experiences that I had when I was 16 in remembering what I can do and how to stick to it.
And what kind of things are we talking? Because I see these pictures of people on ropes and jumping, and it's scary.
Outward Bound uses, and many other the good news is that there are many organizations that have latched onto this philosophy, is that learning happens best in a social environment, in a safe and inclusive primary group that agrees to stick together through what, at the beginning, seem very daunting challenges. And we use some very simple tools of the trade to push people into working together. And we're almost always able to surprise people with what they're capable of.
We're talking with Arthur Pearson from the Thompson Island Outward Bound Education Center and Patrick Harris from the Frederick Middle School. Patrick, talk about the students from the school, because what's interesting here is that these are students who maybe live in separate worlds while they're at your school.
Yeah, so our students predominantly come from Dorchester, Mattapan, and Roxbury, predominantly from really intensely urban environments where there's very little green space. So one thing that happens right away when they get to the island is they get to see, not only is there this amazing green space, but they can literally see Boston from the island. So I think for my students, it's a big wake-up call that it's not that we need to go somewhere completely different, but there's actually this green space right there. Now, my students specifically, we have a high percentage of students with disabilities, specifically me as a special education teacher, and a high percentage of students in my school who are ELL learners or English language learners. And what Thompson Island does really incredibly is they create an inclusive community. What I mean by that is my students, special education students, who typically would spend a whole day with me, I would teach them all subjects. They'll be mixed into groups with students that are normally in much bigger classrooms, as well as ELL students, levels 1 and 2. And the way that Thompson Island facilitates discussions between them and makes every student feel valued is really, really beautiful. It's a type of education that we all could learn something from. And
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think one way they do that is by making sure that there's space for students to make mistakes, space for students to feel like when they make a mistake, it's okay, and that there'll be other students there to support them, and a space where everyone is collaborating together to try and get right, as opposed to one student's trying to get an A, and that student will always have their hand up. Students are really working together in a really organic, beautiful way.
Arthur, one thing even I picked up from a little bit of outdoor challenge is that if you're with someone who's, let's say, roughly your age and from your background, you see them do something, even just crossing a stream, and you're afraid to do it, but because you've seen someone like you do it, you give it a shot.
No question. The critical building block for the experience is a safe and inclusive primary group. And we spent a lot of time, and Outward Bound has developed a good methodology for setting that tone early. And what is heartening is that most young people of all ages, are ready to believe that they can invest themselves in a group, and that if they invest themselves in a group, they can get themselves through it. It is not a hard sell to get kids to buy into, we're going to try things. It doesn't matter if we don't succeed at first. We're going to come back and try them again in a different way, and we're going to support each other in that. That is not a hard sell to kids.
Patrick, of course, we always come around to here is that this sounds nice, but what does it mean at the end of the line as far as their achievement and their future?
Well, I'll specifically speak to one student who sticks out for me, although this story could be true for many of them. I had one student who was with me as a sixth grader, and throughout the whole year, he really struggled academically, and part of that challenge was emotional behavioral challenges that were a result of him always feeling excluded, feeling angry, and feeling left out of the classroom. He went to Thompson Island, and he got a chance to really excel there. He was looked at as a leader in his group. He was treated with respect. He was treated in a way that made him feel really valuable. And he returned there. Thompson Island does an excellent job partnering with us to continue to work with those students. So he returned there for a summer program that he was offered a full scholarship for. And then he returned there for the following 2 summers and worked through their Green Ambassadors program, offering employment opportunities to students 14 and above. And so he's developed this intense sense of self, of him being someone who's really powerful, really a sense maker, and really a change agent. And those were things when he came as a sixth grader he didn't have. And what I will tell you is those 3 days, that overnight on Thompson Island, were the change for him.
Arthur, I know there's a much bigger picture to be talked about, so tell us a little bit about the event and what people can do if they might want to take part.
We're at www.thompsonisland.org. It's October 25th, which is a Tuesday. It's a discussion of the opportunity gap, which is the very well documented gap, for instance, between children in affluent communities by sixth grade typically have 6,000 hours more of music classes, sports after school, summer camps, museum memberships, music lessons. Those out of the classroom opportunities, research is showing, make a huge difference in kids' development. And our discussion on the 25th will be about how we can all rally in Boston and come together to provide those types of opportunities to kids that can't afford them themselves.
I know you got some more details online they can check out.
Absolutely. It's the boat's at 8 o'clock out of South Boston. We'll have you back on the mainland by noon.
Thank you very much for being with us. Arthur Pearson from the Outward Bound Education Center and Patrick Harris
Thank you.
from the Lilla G. Frederick Middle School. We'll have more news in just a moment.